Hello, folks, and welcome back to Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore, and in this episode, we are going to look at frequency modulation as a form of tailoring timbre. And as an example of frequency modulation, we'll be making a bell tone type of sound. Now, I'll be covering the basics and the fundamentals of frequency modulation, but like with a lot of other things, as we go forward, there'll be more and more different types of sounds produced using frequency modulation. So this will not be the only time I cover it really, but at least it'll cover the fundamentals so you understand the important terminology and things you need to know in order to start experimenting with frequency modulation. Incidentally, this is episode 12 of series 1. This will be the last chapter in this, or shall we say the last page in this chapter of series 1. I'll be beginning series 2 almost immediately, so there won't be a drop off in episodes, but I like to organize things into maybe 10 to 12 episode groups. This was the basics, fundamentals of synthesis, and in the next series, series 2, I'm going to be exploring some other modules and creating sounds. So basically, you'll be learning new sounds just about every episode and looking at new modules. I'll be focusing for now on the ones that are free modules that you can download from VCV Rack, but we'll be going outside of the VCV brand, as they call it, and looking at some others. So, adventure continues, nothing to worry about, but things will be listed under a separate playlist that will be Series 2. Everything from Series 1 will stay as is, so you have time to check out the rest of those. So anyway, let's get going. Okay, so we're going to start here with a basic instrument. Those of you who have been following the series will be able to see how this is put together and makes sense with what we've been doing. Our volts per octave is hooked up to this oscillator here, this VCO, and in frequency modulation, when we add that component to it, this will be called our carrier oscillator, because this is the oscillator through this red cable taking the sine wave into channel 1 of the mixer here. This is the oscillator that is our signal, called a carrier signal, meaning it is our sound producing oscillator. I have the gate hooked up to the envelope generator right here. I've turned down sustain or release. We just have attack and decay. We'll be looking at a bell tone sound, so this is a good way to start. It sounds like this. Okay, so since we're doing bell tones, I took out the sustain because the decay portion will adjust as we go along to kind of like judge how long the tone takes before it dies off and basically rings out, so to speak. Okay, we have velocity hooked up from here into process, where it comes out slew and goes into the individual channel 1 CV input here. The envelope is governing the whole mixer, so it's crafting the whole sound, but the sound does respond to velocity. And I'm using slew at 12 o'clock position so we don't get artifacts. But since this was a bell tone, it's something where I'll mostly be playing it without glissandos or holding down notes and playing them one after the other, because it's supposed to have like a, oh, it's sustaining. Oh, I forgot I didn't turn the sustain down. I intended to. There we go. Now I'm still hearing a little bit of sound. Maybe it's because the release isn't down. No, it does die off even if you leave the release, as long as you don't have sustain. So we're going to make that into a bell tone. So to employ frequency modulation, I am going to move things over a bit here. There we go. That should be wide enough for what we're going to add. I'm going to add another VCO. We did a little bit of this while we hooked up the LFO for the first time, the low frequency oscillator. And this time we're going to use a VCO. The LFO is a lower range of frequencies. And in many softwares, LFO may have a range of 0 hertz, meaning off, up to maybe 40 hertz or up to 20 hertz. A lot of times it's below or just at the bottom of our range of hearing frequency-wise, which ideally is 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz. Although in practice, really, some of us don't hear down to 20 hertz, some of us don't hear all the way up to 20,000 hertz. And but that's just a rough framework to just say like 20/20 vision, 20/20 hearing. So frequency modulation, when it's slow enough that you hear the frequency being bent up and down, where like if this is like and you're bending it up and down, when it's slow like that, it's called vibrato, but it is frequency modulation. But it doesn't really become a form of synthesis until you speed that up enough that you create what are called sidebands. So instead of hearing little oscillations, it's oscillating too fast for you to hear them individually, and they basically create other frequencies within the spectrum. Kind of like we use harmonics to create color in the spectrum, or even partials as well. This is a way of generating other frequencies in the spectrum that then create a different timbre. So I'm going to take the sine out here and use a yellow cable and hook it up to FM on our carrier oscillator. So now this is our carrier oscillator, and this would be called our control oscillator or FM oscillator, in that its purpose is to modulate the frequency. Now, with the knob here in the 12 o'clock position, we won't hear much. This basically is an amount knob, so we'll turn that up as we go here. But right now, this would be oscillating at 261.63 hertz. And yeah, we could definitely hear that, at least to start here. We don't hear it until turn this up, the amount. So I adjusted the amount there to a point where it kind of lines up with the frequency of the note being played. But when you go to other notes, you're basically, your frequency here will kind of be coloring the frequency of the carrier oscillator in a way. So it's always good also, we can control its amount, which is almost like the amplitude of the frequency modulating oscillator coming through, but we can also shape it with an EG envelope generator here. We can use an ADSR envelope to shape it. Now, once again, I am going to get rid of sustain. Okay, And I believe the attack on our overall envelope, this is basically governing the whole sound. This is just going to govern this sound here of this oscillator, which isn't really sound, it's modulation. So I'll make it come in right away. Now, in order to allow us to govern it, you do one of two things. There's a couple ways of hooking this up. How about this? We're going to take our carrier oscillator and put it on channel 4 and its velocity control on channel 4. And what we can do is use this mixer, a separate channel, to do this. Because really what we need to do is take sine wave coming out of our control oscillator, and we need to shape it with the envelope generator. Not the envelope generator of the overall sound, but the envelope generator that's just for this oscillator. So we're going to hook up this envelope generator to here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take an output from here, meaning channel 1 is coming out of the mix now. And I hope it indeed does take it out of the mix. And it's going to go into the FM input here on our carrier oscillator. So now this should be governing the amplitude of this oscillator and specifically this envelope generator. Now, in order for it to fit within this envelope that's governing the overall sound, we want its decay time to be quicker. So we can adjust the length of this decay time and this decay time accordingly. Okay. Now, one thing is this up? Turn you up all the way. We're not hearing it. Oh, and I know why. I didn't put the gate on here. I frequently forget that. This gate triggers the envelope, and we need that triggered. I like it to be green. Make my gates green. When the sound, the note on, note off happens. Okay, so there we hear fairly fairly strong. Now notice how that kind of has a pitch to it. That's the attack pitch is different than when the pitch decays away here. Then you hear the carrier oscillator's pitch. As I go up in notes, I'm still hearing the same pitch from the modulating oscillator that it's putting at the beginning of the attack. So one thing I might want to do here is hook up volts per octave of the modulating oscillator so it adjusts with the pitch being played. Well, I didn't succeed in hooking that up, so let's try again. There we go. Now I'm going to have to retune this. This will now still shift the frequency, but it'll do it in proportion to the frequency being played. So. Now what I can do So now that sidebands that are being created now being shifted in frequency along with the notes that I play. There's times you may want that, sometimes you may not, depending on the sound you're designing, but you can see if you do want to have your frequency modulation shift, that's a way of doing it. Now let's explore some other frequencies here and see what we get. So you can see some of the sounds you can make. Now let me see, there is an overall envelope to the sound. Let's see what happens when we extend the decay time. Oops, didn't mean that. Now, another thing that can be done, because we're not getting velocity control over this. We're getting velocity control over the carrier oscillator. This is over the carrier oscillator because that's coming in here. The envelope generator is covering the whole sound. Velocity is attenuating our carrier oscillator here. We don't have a space here for controlling it here. So there's a way we can do that. We can create a separate VCA for our modulating oscillator. Okay. Now what we can do is just say, all right, we're using these channels here for velocity control, since we have velocity control on this channel here. Wait a minute. Where is this going? Yeah, right up here. So we want velocity to go there to keep things consistent. And then what we'll do is have this control. Here's the output on channel 1 of our modulating oscillator. So we'll have it go in here. I didn't want to do it. There we go. And then, see, I'm doing these cables in yellow because these are really control cables, not audio itself. And then this will go in let me think about this. Maybe I won't use this mixer for it because here's what we're doing. We got our envelope generator here is now controlling modulating oscillator. And then this modulating oscillator, if we want it controlled by velocity, yes, it does need to go into here. Oh, where it can then be controlled by velocity. So since our frequency modulation is on the attack of the note, this can then attenuate that. So when you play it harder and softer, you hear differences. And then the output from here, another yellow cable, is going into frequency modulation on our carrier oscillator. Oh, did I make it red? Oh, well, whatever. I guess that'll work. There we go. So now you hear a velocity response to it. And you can control your amount here. You hear how it's kind of now giving us some frequencies. In addition to, the carrier frequency that are actually coloring the sound. Now, let me see here. I need to hear this stronger, so I'm going to turn up the amplitude on our modulating oscillator a bit. There we go. Now, should it ring out a little longer? Okay. Now, what we can do here, I'm hearing that we could use another modulating oscillator. So I'm going to move this over. Put another VCO in. VCO. Now, this is going to need a little more help here. Let's see. Can we share the same envelope? Yeah. But this is going to be at a detuned frequency from this one. So we're going to actually need a mixer here. So we're going to put in another mixer and replace the VCA with that mixer. Okay. Also, one other thing I remembered, that when I hooked this up, this is the velocity for the modulating oscillators, because there's going to be two now. I should have hooked them up here. Oh, come on. Hate it when I do that. No. It goes like this. Come on. Go there. Right there from slew. So now process is also, just to make sure we don't get artifacts. Okay, so now you want a mixer here. Okay, so now what is this mixer mixing? It's missing these two. So we're going to take our sine outs here and have them go in here and here. And then our envelope I'll make it green. Dealing with gate stuff, green. And I didn't have that here, so let me. Sorry about that, folks. There we go. All right, so now we have our two modulating oscillators hooked up here. They're being governed by the envelope, both of them. And then I'm going to use their individual channel outs. No, we're going to use the overall output from the mixer. Go to the FM input over here. Something's already hooked up to that. Yep. That was when we were using this mixer for that. This mixer now, well, actually, our velocity control will be going over here now, because this is where our modulating oscillators are coming in. So both of these channels are going to have velocity control. And then we're going to take the overall mix from this mixer and go into our carrier oscillator here. Now it's sounding weird because I didn't tune this oscillator yet. Remember also we do want it to adjust with the pitch being played. We need to hook that up to volts per octave. Let me just here's the overall level coming out of this mixer. Let me turn it up so I can hear it better. Actually, I think what I wanted to do is take this. I'm going to Control C, copy and paste this, but after this, I'm going to say minus 0.5. That's actually going to be detuned by 0.5. Now, if I paste in the value that was there and add plus 0.5, these two are now detuned by a total of 1 hertz each. Now, it's a little harsh at the beginning. Let's see. And again, I did turn the mix back down. So now these are chorused. Okay? We have 2 more places in this mixer to add 2 more modulating oscillators. Let's see if we get a few more tones in there at higher frequencies. There's a space for 2 oscillators. Go VCO. Then I can Just click that, Control C, tap here, Control V, paste. Okay. Now let's take our outputs from here, go into the mixer. So we're going to have a total of 4 control oscillators. Come on. We want the velocity control hooked up. Hook it up to slew here. Now they're being mixed together. That's where it's going into the FM input on the carrier oscillator. Gate's already hooked up here. I don't think we need to hook anything else up. Oh, we do want their pitches to adjust to the pitch being played. Okay. Now let's just tune them by ear here. We could do exact amounts, like that sounded good there, so let's do it minus 0.5, paste in plus 0.5. Now if we want to accentuate these, we can reduce the others. Now, wow, there's a timpani. There, that's a D below middle C. I'm hearing a little bit of distortion, I believe. The overall signal shouldn't be. Maybe it's overloading a bit here. Now let's see if we take our carrier oscillator and do something with a few more harmonics in it, like a triangle. No. Too much fuzziness. Now, another thing we can do, here we are getting close to like a bell tone or steel drum type of sound. Now in this mixer, see, this all goes into F, frequency modulation here, and this comes in here, so we only have one channel. We could literally have 2 carrier oscillators. I wonder if this mixer would allow us to take 2 outputs from it. We're gonna find out. What am I doing? All I have to do is move these over. Go. And detune these from each other. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take its output here, hook that up to channel 2 of the mixer. Oh, yeah, I could hook this up to channel 2 and move this back over channel 1. Oh, it's just connected. Oh. Use the arrow keys. There we go. And that velocity should be coming in here. Well, it doesn't matter, they're all coming from this spot. Just put them in here. There we go. So our velocity control is in and our oscillator is hooked up. Now, can we connect 2 cables? This is our new oscillator here. So we want to take its cable and hook it up to the output of the mixer. So all 4. It did it. It took it. Okay. And our amount here sounded pretty good. So let's copy and paste that amount. Now, what we're going to do here, these oscillators are set to middle C, so they play whatever pitch is coming into V oct, which incidentally is not hooked up. But I'm going to have them chorused. So this one minus 0.5 and make you plus 0.5. There we go. Maybe the chorusing can be different here. Let's initialize this, take the initial value and subtract 1.5 from it. Take this initial value and add 1.5 just to make chorusing, like the beating in the chorusing, faster. Yeah, that's sounding like a frame drum. A nice one too. I'm going to chorus these. Oh man. You know what? Rather than chorusing them or just worrying about that, maybe I'm going to set these by ear. Okay, now let me do something here. I am going to make the attack a little slower on the envelope for the modulation. Let's turn this down. trying to tremolo it. Not quite working. Hearing scratchiness that I don't really care for. These are going out here, so we are having velocity slewed there. And maybe have this ring out a little longer. And this one maybe a little longer now. All right. Yeah, we are still getting a bit of scratchiness there. Let me see. I'm going to try mixing them a little bit. Less scratchy. All right. So we are kind of getting bell tone-ish type sounds. Now, another thing you could do is put individual envelopes on these so that they ring out at different rates. Meaning, well, they'll die off at different times, which helps you control a little bit more the shape of the modulation and therefore kind of like the ringing of the bell tone. There, if I slow the attack, now if you do that, individual envelopes, you might want to just put those individual envelopes here on the second level where the individual channels get covered, and then switch this out and have your velocity coming by way of slew and process here governing the overall sound. In fact, why don't we try that for the heck of it? I'm going to take you out. Take the 4 of these out. Oh, there we go. Here, we'll just pop you there because that'll be velocity for everything. And now I'm going to make you green because there's a lot of yellow there, and have you control, let's say, oscillator 1. So I'll move this over, in fact. And frequency modulation oscillator 1 is now controlled by that envelope. Now, before we can hear it and actually have something decent sounding, we do need to put the other envelopes in. I'm wondering if we can insert. Looks like we're going to have to move these over. Okay. Ooh. Oh, it did paste it. It just pasted it at the end. All right, we're going to want you. All right, this is supposed to be governing oscillator 1, so put it next to it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's right, I have 2 carriers. Yep, 2 carriers. So yeah, we're going to put you there. Come on. That way you can see in here what happens when you have control over individual FM oscillators. Enough? Okay. So you are going to be, come on, right of this one, this one. How did I end up with so much extra space? I'm almost regretting trying this now. You got a good enough steel drum sound type of bell tone thingy. Before it, take it to the next level. In fact, what I'm going to do is put the envelopes below. Put them below the oscillators they go with. Needs to be hooked up though. Gate to gate. Missed. Come on. Do it for me, will you? There we go. And the output of this goes into right here. Wait a minute. No. Right here. Channel 2. Oh. Maybe I should pause and hook these up and then unpause. Yep, I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause and then come back when they're all done. Okay, so I'm back now. And what I did in the meantime, while I was paused, not only hooked up the gate cables going to the envelopes, and then the envelope outputs to the mixer here that mixes basically the envelopes with the 4 different frequency modulation oscillators. I then added another process. So the output from here is going into the process module. And then I have 2 cables from the process module going to our 2 carrier oscillators that are chorused. And what's happening is I got rid of that scratchiness. Yeah, but for bell tones you wouldn't want to. But basically what I did is I adjusted the envelope gate so that the higher pitch stuff dies out sooner than the lower pitch stuff, which is, I guess, a little bit more natural in that regard. Let me see here. So yeah, what you would do is just play more with adjusting the frequencies here. Another thing you could do is have one modulating oscillator per carrier oscillator and tune them accordingly, so that way you get specific modulation on each carrier oscillator, and each carrier oscillator could be like, you know, one fundamental and then an overtone for it, so that basically you're creating sidebands on the overtones, and that could give you a more complex sound with more ringing. But I'm kind of liking this sound. As the series goes on, I can definitely experiment with more stuff. But I think what I'm going to do here, kind of cap this off. Let's see if we could find a good place here. We have our two carrier oscillators coming in here. So this is the final shaped sound. Let's try some filtering on it. The overall sound. VCF. And we'll go out here into the VCF. And actually, I'm going to add a delay too. No, the delay might be best under the overall envelope. We have two channels coming in here. It would be almost like adding another envelope to it. I might do that depending on what happens here. Input and output into audio. All righty. Let's do the VCF first. Well, I didn't mean that. I mean, that's cool. We'll play with that delay a bit more. I'm actually getting a delay from when I actually hit the key. Now it's better. Yeah, we're definitely getting some more ringing out there. Okay. Now I'm coming out the wet out. Oh, that's why I was hearing a delay from when I hit the key, because I wasn't hearing a dry as part of it. We could stand to turn up this mix a little bit. I had turned it down before. This is actually sounding cool as like a tine keyboard type of sound. Let's actually play with the delay a little bit. Let's turn up the drive on this. A little too much feedback on the delay. Too much resonance. Maybe too much drive. That's a pretty cool sound. Let's put it in polyphonic mode, see what it sounds like then. So each note gets its own envelope. I'm going to put it on 8-note polyphony. And the mode, well, with 8 notes of polyphony, it doesn't really, mode isn't going to matter as much if you've seen the last episode. Yeah, but yeah, rotate's good. Okay. Let's hear this end. When I hit with a soft enough velocity, the higher pitches stab out a little bit more, but I'm digging this. Of course, with the delay, you can set this to go with a MIDI clock. So when you have a tempo, or if you're using the step sequencer in the software, you can set a tempo. And we'll be exploring other things because there's also a note sequencer from JW modules. We're going to be checking that stuff out. Well, anyway, I think this is a good introduction to FM synthesis and what you can do with it. And maybe using different individual carrier oscillators and individual modulating oscillators. Here I have all 4 doing both of these, and it does give you an interesting tone. You can play around with tuning those oscillators and, you know, their levels. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could have multiple VCAs per oscillator controlling its level or its amount going in. Really, you know, the sky's the limit, and there's so much that can be done with FM synthesis. It's ridiculous. But as long as you understand the main concept, you can experiment around and try out lots of things. If you found this episode useful or interesting in any way, please hit the like button. I'll leave a comment if you have questions or suggestions, or you make an FM instrument you'd like me to see. Make arrangements for me to receive it, check it out. And yeah, please subscribe if you haven't already. Series 2 will begin almost immediately after this episode. Well, basically tomorrow. So there won't be a break. It's just the episodes will be in the Series 2 playlist, just so things are organized and, you know, kind of like more manageable clumps. All right, folks, until next time, take care and stay free.